night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light.
Hello, my name is Raymond Hill, but they call me Butch Wayne because my father's name is Raymond, and it would be confusing if several people had the same name around the kitchen table. My best friend is Jenna. She's a female donkey, you know, with brown, curly, reddish, black hair and a white bottom, well, almost white. And we go everywhere together except the other side of Carpenter's Bayou. She's not afraid of the bayou. She'll wade in the bayou, but when you start up the other side, she turns around and goes back, or she just won't go. So I have to explore that part of my world all by myself. There's a wide place in the bayou where the kids, the boys, in the neighborhoods of Cloverleaf and Channelview go swimming, but we have to swim naked because if we try to sneak out of the house with their bathing suits, Frankie and Raymond, my parents, don't like the idea of me swimming without adult supervision. They think it's dangerous, but really the kids look after one another better than adults usually look after children. I can sometimes ride Jenna all the way to the K-Buck Studios. It's a little one-room kind of house with a radio studio inside, and the DJ, who's usually drunk, has to go out and pee a lot, and so I wind up being able to play some music and sound like a cowboy on the air. So I just love radio because you don't have to dress up for radio. You can just kind of be yourself or just your voice. I'm Ray Hill, and I'm an evangelist. That's a preacher without a church. Remember that kid who liked swimming around the swimming hole with the other naked boys? Well, he really enjoyed that, and so do I, but my game is a little more sophisticated. I don't spend a lot of time in the woods. I spend a lot of time in church. Frankie, my mother, stopped going to church when I was 13 years old because she called them dens of hypocrisy. But I had to continue to go because that's where all my friends were, and certainly all my intimate partners. I mean, you look a little available, and the youth minister is all over you, and there are the other guys that you can mess around with. And if youth minister is busy, there's the guy that directs the music and the one that plays the piano, so you've got options. And I'm certainly enjoying that, but in order to stay into that atmosphere, I had to memorize scripture, so I memorized Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and that was impressive. They put me on the road as an evangelist. Now I meet all these wonderful country boys and go-ahead kids and ministers from other churches. I read somewhere about Catholic priests and acolytes, but I'm absolutely convinced it's a Baptist thing because that's my experience. And I'm enjoying that and making a lot of money. I'm making better money than my father, Raymond. Raymond works at Todd Shipyard as a union shipyard worker, and I make better money preaching on weekends than he does working a full day almost every day. And I enjoy the attention a lot. I'm Ray Hill. I'm a student activist. I am the chairman of the local chapter of the NAACP, and I am the next candidate in line to become national chair of the Student Mobilization Committee in the War in Vietnam. I believe what I do because my parents, the labor organizers, Raymond at the shipyard and Frankie tried to organize nurses for the Teamsters Union. That didn't work because Texas is not a state where labor people can get it together, but they taught me Saul Alinsky and John L. Lewis and Samuel Gompers, and of course the wonderful Joe Hill and the songs about him, the Woody Guthrie songs. So I got the Union spirit, and I'm likely to grow up to be the gay guy my parents intended me to be. The only problem with being a student activist is it takes a lot of money to go to conferences and demonstrations. You kind of got to dress for the occasion. And as I'm maturing as a gay guy, I've got to go to the opening of the beaches in Fort Lauderdale and then to Mission Days near San Diego and to Galveston for Splash Day. And you've got to have nice hotel rooms and you have to dress well. And, it doesn't hurt to have a few bucks to attract some attractive guy for your arm to impress you. And I wasn't making that kind of money, so I took up sideline. I became a burglar. I didn't like breaking into people's houses and steal their stuff because if you do that, you've got somebody seriously angry at you that may never wash off. So I broke into businesses and stole there, and I stole stuff queers know about: antiques, art, jewels, electronics, of course. And I thought, well, I'm just Robin Hood, you know, stealing from the rich and giving to the worthy poor myself, of course. And I really made good money because I didn't fence that crap off for 10 cents on the dollar. What I did was I opened up an antique store in Tennessee and paid the sheriff for non-notice. His name was Buford Tussey. You may have heard of him. But I was the most unarrestable thief in America and made a lot of money. I drove my cars, put on airs, and did all of that. It was great work. You don't work too much. The hours are strange because burglars work when nobody's around, and but the money was good. The only thing I didn't like about the profession was the retirement part. I'm 21, 33, 98. I'm an inmate in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. I was sentenced to 160 years, 20 consecutive 8-year sentences. Now, when you come to this place, sentenced to 160 years, you don't spend a lot of time worrying about how you're going to survive until you get out, because there ain't no get down. Survival means, how do I live here? And so I gave that some thought, and I had that figured out about a week, 2 days. Then the next question is, how do you prosper? Well, I'm a gay guy, and I'm an openly gay guy from the headlines in the Houston Chronicle and Houston Post. $4 million burglary ring busted. Leader refuses to identify co-conspirators. Leader of local gay movement. Well, they told him I was queer, but, you know, prison's full of people that ain't stole $200 in their lifetime and actually got away with it. And here's this $4 million guy, and I ain't identifying any co-conspirators, so I'm a no-snitching guy. So, I mean, I was welcome when I got there. And so I became the consummate bureaucrats. Queers do that well, you know, they used to call us eunuchs. And so we can blend in and take advantage of the power that other people have and weld a little ourselves. So I started out as the bookkeeper in the maintenance department, and my job was to outfit crews and make sure they had everything they needed to fix prisons and keep them in operated. And that made me a popular guy among all the people I got out of the cotton fields and got the jobs for. And then I was that for a few weeks, and then the guy from the construction department came by, Mr. Wyndham, and he said, "Oh, hell, my best bookkeeper just got caught pulling an officer out of his butthole over in the back of the shed, and so I had to run him and the officer off. You come over there and straighten my books out until somebody else can take over." But that job came with the keys to a pickup truck. So a guy doing 160 years with that, I ain't giving that job up. This ain't a temporary gig for me. But I built beautiful prisons. I visit prisons later, and they're still there, and they still are remarkable examples of what convicts can do with their hands while they're in custody. I got out of prison in 1975. I filed an Eighth Amendment writ in federal court that didn't have a chance of anything, but we found a sucker federal judge that put my ass on the street, and I was scared to death. I was much more afraid of going to prison than I had, getting out of prison than I had been going to. I knew I had to have structure in my life, so I signed up for a class load at the University of Houston downtown college. And I got Texas Rehabilitation Commission to pay tuition and books. And I went down there and I got into a class load, and as I'm registering, there's this spiral notebook paper on the wall that said, "Join student government." And I said, "What does that cost?" They said, "Nothing." And I said, "Where do I sign up?" And so I went over to the table where you signed up with that, and everybody was running for a Senate position and all this and that and the other. But nobody's running for president. So I signed up to run for president. Little did I know that there was an incumbent president that hadn't signed up yet, and so I had to come up with a campaign. My campaign slogan is "Give a convict a break." Well, that caught that student body's imagination, and Dr. Chiudon Boney, not the one that was on city council, but his father, who was an educational thing, called me in his office and said, "Mr. Hill, how is it that a man who's been out of prison less than 90 days is the president of my student body?" And I said, "Well, Dr. Boney, some of us do politics better than others." And then I proceeded to fight with him for the whole 2 semesters that I was there. I didn't take any courses that I hadn't taken when I was a college bum and an activist, but I killed time and I got discipline back in my life. And my ego. You know, when you get out of prison, you ain't going to be nobody for the rest of your life. These prison numbers you see up here don't wash off. It says ex-convict on each cheek of my ass in case somehow they get separated. But little by little I gained confidence. What was going on in 1975 is there was a budding movement where nobody had heard of one before, called gay lesbian rights. I'm Ray Hill. I'm the co-founder of Gay and Lesbian Political Caucus, Montrose Counseling Center, Montrose Clinic, Montrose Sports Association, Montrose Activity Center, Gay and Lesbian Hispanic Unitas, and just about everything else you can think of in the gay community. I did that by calling a meeting saying, what are we going to need for the next 5 years? And we decided, and I made myself a member of each of the committees to build that. 1978 was especially a good year. Those institutions were in view for a long time. When I started in this movement, I came out of the closet in 1958, and I was the only one. You know, in 1958, Walt Whitman wasn't even out of the closet, even though she read his poetry. The only one out of the closet was Oscar Wilde, and so the only thing you really knew is you had to develop your wit to survive. And so I followed that role model. My parents teaching me about politics until that worked. I'm Ray Hill, and I do a radio talk show. It's called The Prison Show. I've done it now about 30 plus years. It is a piece of communication where people who wish to express their support and love to someone in prison do the second hour of my show with my mere